Hey everyone, my name's Alexandra and I am a watercolor artist. Today I wanted to show you guys how to paint a super cute and simple watercolor bee. This is something that is really fun to paint on its own, or I will also show you guys a really easy way to incorporate it into something like a Valentine's Day card or just card for any time of year, I guess, that you would want to give to your someone special. Let's get started. For supplies today, you guys will need 2 cups of water. I have one for clean water, one for dirty, a napkin for drying your paintbrushes. I'm using a 140-pound cold press watercolor paper. For paints, I'm using Philisophy and Co's Terrain palette. I'll be using a mixture of colors in here, but one of the primary ones that you guys will need is some sort of yellow. And for paintbrushes, I'm using Opus Allegro's numbers 2 and 4. I have drawn out super lightly sort of the guideline shapes for my bee, but you guys definitely don't have to do this. I'm going to show you guys how we can paint this without needing to do that. So I want you guys first to just start. We're going to use a lot of a wet on wet technique. So you're going to start by wetting sort of just a big oval on your paper. This one of the reasons it's important to have 2 cups of water is so that you can make sure that your paintbrush is nice and clean before you add water to your paper. So now that I've painted in that oval shape, I'm gonna go in with my yellow and I'm just gonna mix it on a clean part of my palette here. And what I want to do is I'm just gonna dot it into my page, just in a line, so sort of a sideways oval for this one. And then I'm gonna do another one up top, but a little bit smaller. And then a really skinny dotted line at the bottom. So I have 3 furry looking yellow lines. So we are painting a nice and furry bumblebee here. So I'm adding in, going more into my sassafras yellow, and I'm just gonna continue to dot it into where I've already added the paint, just to get that nice depth of color. So now that I've done that, I am going to let it dry a little bit before I add in the black. I want to be careful to not add in the black right away, otherwise the black is going to mix with the yellow and sort of end up as a muddy color. So while that's drying, I don't actually have black paint on my palette here, so I'm going to mix a color that I can use. So what I want to do is I'm going to take this yellow that I was already using and mix it onto my palette. I do have some dark brown, so now I'm going to go in and I'm going to take that. One of the reasons that I'm using a brown color over a straight up black color is just because when I'm using black, sometimes the contrast with the yellow can be kind of funny. If I go instead for a brown color that is, it's generally black, but it has a warmer undertone, you'll find that it goes so much nicer with what we're painting. So I've mixed this really nice dark color there. I can test it on my napkin. I'm gonna add some blue just to make it even darker. All right, and now that I've done that, I have my nice black there. I'm gonna go in right above where I added the yellow, and I'm doing the same thing and just dotting it into my paper. So now I'm gonna do that again, right in between where that white gap was. And then one more spot down here. So you'll see this one's a lot of fun just to see how it bleeds together and how it dries. But now that we've done that, we're gonna fully let the bee dry before adding any more details to our bee. All right, so now that my bee is mostly dry, I'm gonna go in with my pen, which I realized I forgot to mention in the supplies. So I'm using a Micron 01 pen. Specifically for this one, I'm using their brown color, but you guys can use brown or black, whatever works. And I am going to draw in the legs. So I definitely could use paint for this if I wanted, but I just like using a super fine pen line. So I'm just sort of drawing the legs, curving down. All right, and then I'm gonna do 2 coming up as well. So I'm just sort of doing really loose sketched lines for this. We'll do little antennas, and then we're gonna go in and add some color and some detail to the wings. And I'm just gonna start by drawing them in. So easiest way to do this is to just look at a picture of a bee and you can kind of use that for reference of what shape to do things like the wings, the legs, and all of that. And I'm just gonna overlap them a little bit with each other. So now that I've done that, I want to add some more definition to my bee itself, because you can see how it's given this really cool effect with using the wet on wet technique with the water. But now I just want to make sure that everything is really defined. So I'm actually just going to go with my pen and just with really light scribbly lines, I'm just sort of outlining each section so that we can really see the differences. And I'm okay if the actual shape of the bee goes outside of where I'm drawing the lines. I'm using the lines as a really good way to just add a lot more definition to my painting. So now I can go in, I can add more to my legs and to the antennas. Okay, so I added top and the bottom, and we're just gonna add in 2 more little legs sticking out. And now I want to add in some detail to the wings themselves. So what I'm doing is I'm drawing some lines going down from the edge of the wing and coming towards the center. And then I drew some little diagonal ones coming down across. So I'll do the second one a bit slower. So a line coming from the outside of the wing towards the center of the bee. And then I'm doing these little curved diagonal lines that work their way in towards that center again. So again, for this, you guys can add details to your wings however you'd like. I'm just gonna add the lines a little bit darker coming towards the center of the bee. And then one thing that I really like to do, especially with things like wings, I'm just gonna rinse my paintbrush in my dirty and then into my clean water. And I'm gonna go in with some blue, have it nice and watered down. And I'm just gonna sort of go over top of where I've drawn the wings in. And this just gives it that sort of transparent look that you get when you're looking at bees. So now that we've done that, the last thing that we're going to do is, if we're taking this bee and we want to make it into a card, my immediate thought is to put Be Mine on it. So I'm just gonna turn my paper because it's hard for me to handwrite with my paper straight, but I wrote with some really loose handwriting. I went with pencil first just because it's easier for me to follow a straight line rather than fully freehanding it. And for the play on words, since it seems like you have to, I'm gonna write Be with 2 E's, Mine below. And now you have it all set up, so you could use this for something like a card. Whenever I'm doing something like this as well, I really like, instead of it just being the little bee and nothing else on the page, I like to tie in the colors that I'm using sort of throughout. So one way that you can do this is just by putting water onto your page. And I'm just gonna clean my brush to make sure it's even more clean. I noticed I had some yellow in there. And what I can do now is I can take this yellow that I was using and just sort of splash it into spots. So not too much, I'm just adding a little bit of color into there. And now I'm gonna go following that same concept. I'm just gonna add a tiny bit of the blue that I already have in the wings of my bee. And this just gives more interest to the rest of our painting. So we're gonna let that dry and then we will be all done with our painting. All right, so now that we've added in some of that yellow, some of that blue color, that last step is definitely optional depending on how you like your paintings to look, but I wanted to tie in that color more. So now that that's done, we are all finished with our simple, easy watercolor bee painting. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you followed along, make sure to take a picture of it, send it to me on Instagram at Alexandra Victoria Studio. I absolutely love to see what you guys are painting. Also, if ever there's anything specific that you guys want to learn, please do leave a comment below. I definitely read those and I will make tutorials to teach you guys what you want to learn. So let me know if that's either a certain animal, flower, if it's a certain watercolor technique that you're just really not feeling confident in. Leave a comment and I'd love to show you guys. If you haven't already, make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel. See you next time.